Hello and welcome to Center of Weirdness, an Eerie, Indiana podcast from two weirdos. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, all you whackers out there.
Oh, my God.
The Mad Whacker.
So we are here to talk about... I think this is episode 16 or 15. It doesn't matter anymore. We're so close to the end here. This is No Brain, No Pain. And it's it's something. I'll give it that.
This is the weirdest episode they've done, I think.
I think so. Yeah, it's very silly. It's very political, weirdly enough. It might also be, I don't know, kind of tone deaf, maybe.
Maybe has a lesson to be learned at the end, I guess.
Sure, maybe.
Sure. Do you like the song "My Sharona" by the Knack, Josh?
I mean, I never really felt one way or the other about it. Like, I think it's fun. It's a fine enough song. If it shows up in a movie, during a montage or something, it can be fun. But I don't have like a feeling one way or the other. But I think I can say safely that whoever was involved in the making of this episode fucking loved this song.
God, some of the premises for these shows have always been kind of either flimsy or weird or like one note. Like this one is basically what if the characters switched bodies, which shows love to do, gives the actors chance to do range.
Sure.
And what if we did a whole episode that was kind of about My Sharona?
It has to be because they liked the song, because there's no reason why it would need to be My Sharona. That song came out in 1979.
Which, 1992, it's not that long ago. I mean, it's
yeah,
been a while since,
but come on.
I mean, it'd be less than if I did an entire episode about a kid's show about Buddy Holly by Weezer.
Fair, but as we've mentioned time and time again on Center of Weirdness, a lot of the things that happen in Eerie, Indiana seem very much to be for the delight of the people making the episode and not really for the audience. Because if this is a show geared at kids, it's very likely that kids who are 10 and 11 might have heard My Sharona, but wouldn't necessarily, in a montage, in a movie or on a show or whatever, but wouldn't necessarily have known that it was the Knack or wouldn't know that it was a song.
It's kind of the same Marshall thing. To not know what it is.
That is true. I will give them credit that they don't just make it so that they know what it is, but it's funny because not only is it a plot point, but they do a cover of it on the soundtrack.
Yeah, they do a dramatic, orchestrated version of it, kind of pumping through the background.
They were ahead of the time because, this is the thing that we see in movies nowadays. They take upbeat pop songs and they slow them down and they make them sinister sounding to soundtrack movie trailers. It's only a matter of time before a spooky version of My Sharona shows up on some horror movie trailer.
Oh God, this episode has the weirdest thrown off lines, all about political stuff, some tone deaf stuff about homeless people and a Chinese restaurant. And we are so close to the end. And I know his name is Dash X, but they have not given him a name yet. Every character knows him. No one is surprised to see him. But he has no name. He's just around like Gizmo Duck. I mean, it makes literally, he comes down from the roof of a building in this episode out of nowhere. And It's just here's Dash. Dash is now part of this story. And it's better for it. But my fucking God, the show is so off the rails as far as why is he in this show? What does he provide?
It's weird because they set up this whole thing when he first showed up a couple episodes ago, which was very much I don't know how I got here. I don't really remember anything about where I came from or who I really am. And it seems with only 3 episodes to go after this one.
And one isn't a real episode.
Yeah, are we going to get to it? Like, I don't know if we're going to find out anything about him.
Like, literally, they introduce him. He doesn't know where he came from. He has prematurely gray hair. He talks like Christian Slater. And he says, I have X's in marker in the back of my hands, but I don't know why.
So I noticed something interesting. I noticed that I don't think it's both hands. I think it's only one, because on one hand, it looks like he has just a single line. So I'm wondering if it's like not an X, but a plus and a minus. So he's like a weird battery or something.
What if he has the X there? Because that's the one he wants to make sure that he uses when he takes over being the city's new Mad Whacker.
That fist, the X hand is the one that's going to give it to you. I mean, we made that joke before about him, but that's fine.
I mean, we're going to make an X going to give it to you joke every episode that he's in.
Oh, it looks like so slight spoiler here, but next episode he finally gets a name.
It's so wonderful. I mean, 4 episodes in, they finally call him anything except for
the kid with the gray hair.
That kid with a weird haircut. Like, everyone knows who he is. He comes out of nowhere and no one is surprised by him anymore. That's how part of the fabric of this town, this grifter kid with gray hair who talks like this is. Like, no one gives it any thought anymore.
Yeah. So let's kind of go through the plot of this bizarre episode, which I have a fun little trivia bit to share once we get into the meat of this story. So we start with them coming out of a Chinese restaurant. We get, as you would in the 90s, very stereotypical gong noises and music playing. As they come out, he says that they have pretty decent egg rolls, but they have weird Eerie only fortune cookies. One of which is Marshall's is what you will live to tell the tale. So that's interesting. And then Simon's is you will see the future through the eyes of many. And then Marshall's dad is a mysterious stranger will come into your life or something like that.
Yes, and then he gets immediately smacked with a shopping cart by a homeless man who's yelling, "They want my brain."
Yes.
Like he taps into him and dad goes flying because it's funny.
Yeah. So he goes into the bushes and the guy just kind of wanders around yelling at people. And I don't know what this line is, but as he's wandering around, they help Marshall's dad up, and he says, "Oh, it's not a big deal. He might be one of Eerie's last liberals."
If you read Doonesbury, the comic strip back in the 1980s, early 90s, they made fun of the idea of the dying liberal. Reagan had destroyed the idea that there were liberals, that there were people left of even center. So it was a giant joke back then of anyone still being liberal when they've been proven so wrong, because America had become so amazing under Reagan. And then but that's not the end of this with Reagan and his cohort.
No,
in this episode.
it's a bizarre runner that, again, I don't get where that's like the thing that they're like, oh, kids will love this. Like, they're going to love it.
Weird. So he's running around yelling "My Sharona" over and over again.
Yeah.
Which we'll learn later, he's had his brain switch with the audio track from an 8-track of "My Sharona." That'll make sense later. Do not worry about what I just said. But apparently, if the song "My Sharona" was your brain, you would still be alive, but you'd be stupid.
But also, you would know that your brain had been taken.
So like apparently he lost like 90% of his brain except for the ability to probably shit, eat, know that his brain was taken, and yelling My Sharona.
I'm looking at the lyrics of My Sharona now to see if he mentions any other things. I don't remember.
All I thought the rest of the whole song was do 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 do.
I don't remember him talking about running down the lengths of his thighs, or having a dirty mind.
He certainly does, though.
He does.
This is a man seduced by aqua aerobic massage techniques.
That's true. I mean, I'm surprised that her name isn't Sharona. Like they didn't make that joke. They didn't hit that on the head even more. But apparently, her name is. We'll get to it. I don't want to get too far ahead. But because
the baby is at dinner with them. At this point, he's just with them all. In fact, they like my dad has his arm around him at one point, like he's their real son.
Yeah, like they kind of dropped maybe they got when they kind of retooled and brought in Dash X, they got rid of all the references to Simon's absolutely atrocious home life.
But yet it still must exist because he's never home. He has a baby brother who's with these terrible parents.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about his brother. I forgot all about that kid. But we have to touch on the very important thing because they see this guy wandering around, and they bring up the fact that I don't remember who it is, but someone brings up the fact, maybe it's Cindy, that he's known around town as the Mad Whacker.
So what they're saying, if you're a kid, is that he's a possible axe murderer. He does have an axe on his shopping cart. So he whacks people with axes. But it means this is a man who has terrible trauma to his mental functionality, and he constantly whacks off.
Yeah.
The tar inside his sleeves, which we see later.
Oh.
That's what it is. It is aged and it has absorbed the smog of the streets, but it is congealed.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I just assumed that was just
shit?
Used motor oil that he used for lube.
Just go down to Pennzoil.
But yes, so they call him the Mad Whacker, and of course, we're children, so our brains went to, oh, this guy's just jerking off on the streets of Eerie constantly. And he kind of goes off about his business, and of course
he's whacking off.
Exactly. And Marshall and Simon follow him, which it's like the mom says, I don't care if he's a liberal or an axe murderer, you shouldn't go around him. And of course, the next scene, they are following this guy, trying to see what's going on with him because they can't just leave shit alone. They have to know.
They frame it by the end that like he's the first person who cared enough to figure out what was going on with this guy. No, he was just like, my life is boring for 5 minutes and I have to get myself involved in everything. And I find this guy's life sad, but life is that no one's caring about. Like he's not there to help him. He's there to spy on him and make snark jokes.
Yeah, because he thinks that he's a murderer. He thinks he's an axe murderer. And he's like, well, I'm just going to go figure this out.
He does say he doesn't look like an axe murderer to him. And then the baby says, yeah, they're usually taller.
That was one of those cases that we didn't get to see.
Apparently, because once again, there's much evidence in the evidence locker in Marshall's house, which does make a return here because we haven't seen him do it as much anymore. It's not as big a deal, but that tease us with like, almost near constant adventures that he's going on because he's only been there for like a year and a half at most. That he must be having like just all these great adventures that we don't see because some of them aren't that great.
Yeah, these are only the ones that are on the show are the choicest ones. These are the best.
The choice cuts.
Yes. So they go into the alley, they see the guy there, and suddenly this car pulls up on the other end, and a woman steps out wearing this black leather jacket with these black sunglasses. She has a big curly red hair, and she points this sort of weird looking gun at this guy. And they run up. Marshall runs up and says, "Junior police," and tells her to stop. And it's like, oh, good, okay. And she points a gun at them, and it's like, "What did you say, little boy?" And then suddenly, out of nowhere, Dash X flies down on a ladder, and he tries to be very suave and kind of menacing to her, but then she points the gun at him, and he hides behind Simon, which I thought was pretty good. And we hear police sirens start to come up, which I don't understand why that happens.
They don't ever show up either.
No, we never see the cops. I wonder if they're just passing by on the way to some other, it might not even be the cops. It might be that ambulance driven by the two twins. So
you never know. All we know is that Dash says sirens and him don't get along, which we've never seen him. We know that he shoplifts. He's stolen a toaster, but we've never seen him actually arrested.
No.
But he says, this is where he finally says, why are you bothering with this, Marshall? You got to think, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Also, there's a bunch of Terminator jokes, which they fucking hammer into the ground.
Yeah, the problem is the sirens start going, and she's like, well, she retreats and she says, "I'll be back." And you're like, okay, I get it. This is 92, Terminator 2 just come out. It's in the lexicon. Even if it's not for kids still saw that movie. And they made toys of it. So, I mean, it was there. People knew what it was. So that makes sense that they would put that in there. But then you have Dash, as she leaves, say, "I didn't know there was a Miss Terminator." And you're like, you don't need that.
God, there's no point in history where you needed it less. Of all, if you look at the spectrum of the planet from the beginning of the Earth until the heat death of the sun, this is a very specific moment where you least needed to call out what that joke was.
And also that means that there's a couple things that means for Dash. That means either he does not remember where he came from or who he is, but he remembers the Terminator. So he either remembers that film or he's watched it since he got to Eerie.
He's got to pass time somewhere. We don't know if he has a VHS. Wherever
That's true.
He lives.
Yeah, wherever he lives. I don't know if he still lives in that old mill where they found him originally, or if he's just still moving around like he's been doing.
I don't know. I wonder if whatever alternate dimension he came from also has Terminator 2 and Terminator 1 in it.
Do you know for sure that he's from an alternate dimension?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a thing that was just known, but so far they haven't really alluded to that. So
speaking of alternate dimensions, I want to point out that our Terminatrix here is played by Anita Morris, who played the Bette Midler role from Down and Out in Beverly Hills in the Down and Out in Beverly Hills TV series, which lasted 13 episodes. About the same as this show.
Yeah.
She would be dead within 2 years after this episode ended.
Oh, well, that's very sad.
It's very sad. But in case you forgot, there was a Down and Out in Beverly Hills television show in 1987. We will not be covering that on this podcast.
No, but on another one, maybe. So they decide that they need to help this guy. They've taken to calling it. Are they calling him Chappie yet?
No,
I think they are.
I think they are because they like that movie Chappie.
I don't. In a scene we didn't see, Dash X, whatever dimension he's from, he's already seen Chappie. It came out many years ago, and he tells them about it, and they like the idea of this robot.
Yeah, he's Marshall's son from the future, and he's watched Chappie and Real Steel as well.
But they were just one film over there.
Yes, Real Chappie.
So they take the guy home. They take Chappie home, and they clean him up. They shave him with this bizarre looking razor.
I think it's supposed to be her Cindy's leg razor, but
her epilady.
We assumed it was for her lady parts, so which legs are part of ladies.
And so they're shaving him, they're cleaning him up, they're trying to like give him a bath. Simon's giving him a haircut,
And
which
is
is
very
pretty
proud of
fun.
it.
Yes, like it's another element of Simon's personality where he gets really into things. In the previous episode, he was really into stamps. Now he's just like been, I guess, doing some barber lessons or something somewhere because he's very proud of himself.
He's like, well, we know one thing about this guy as he rants constantly and takes apart a hairdryer. He's like, he has one fancy haircut, and then he smiles and continues to keep cutting his hair.
Yeah.
So this guy is supposed to look like a Doctor Who, I think.
Oh, is that what they're going for?
With the haircut and the foppishness and the
I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they realize that they have to figure out what's going on, and they think that maybe his boxes of junk and his shopping cart from the alley might have some clues as to who he is and why he's like this. And it's like, well, I mean, not everything is going to be a mystery that you need to solve, Marshall.
Really?
But
I know. And this one, like, they leave Chappie here with Cindy to have her babysit him, saying that he's Uncle Morris. Everyone they want to, every time they want to explain someone who they don't want to explain to Marshall's family, they say they're related some way to the baby.
Yeah,
it's Simon's uncle from Latvia, who doesn't speak English, except for he speaks a little bit of English when he shouts things. Uncle Morris. But they leave this guy who they don't know, who may be dangerous and who is a mad whacker, with this young lady.
And she seems fine with it too, because she's in the middle of her soap opera, Todd and Donna.
Which is fantastic.
It's great. I always love when they do cutaways to things like this, because it shows really what the creators, not only did they love the Knack, but they had a very low opinion of daytime soap operas.
So two quotes from this show, because we get a couple shots of it. We have him saying to her, "I did not bake sticky buns with Carol," which, you know, Cindy's like, "Oh, yes, you did." And then later complaining that she better not badmouth Dr. Gladiator's Big Man Retreat. Which is an incredible sentence for someone to have written for this show within a show.
That is a thing that I would love to investigate further. What is that? I mean, I think we can probably figure out what it is.
Everyone there is wearing Big Dog shirts and Big Johnson shirts.
I feel like it's that for sure, but it's like guys who are described, self-described or described by others as big man. So if they're on the street, they see their friend, they get a "Hey, big man." If they go to a bar, the bouncer gives them a "Hey, big man." These are the guys who are going to Dr. Gladiator's Big Man Retreat, and Dr. Gladiator is also a big man, but he's there to help them feel good about their big man status. About
how many people there are named Junior? But okay, Dr. Gladiator. Is Gladiator his given name? Not his Christian name, his given last name. Or was he a gladiator first, but then, after finishing his gladiator career, decided to become a doctor?
Well, I think that Dr. Gladiator, I think you're right. I think it's the second one. This was a guy who was on American Gladiators. He got out. He was tired of shooting people with foam darts and knocking them off of platforms with giant Q-tips, and he decided, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get my doctorate in psychology. And then he started this retreat where he has all these big men come in and learn to feel better about themselves. Unfortunately, there is a revelation a couple of years later that he was bilking them out of money. His doctorate was from some fly-by-night university, so it wasn't actually valid. And
I mean, he wasn't even looking for the credentials on size. Any size.
No, anybody could come in as a big man. I think people got wind that something was wrong when they were letting in little shrimps and guys who would regularly get sand kicked in their faces on beaches. And it became very clear that he was just interested in the money, not actual big man status.
speaking of interested in the money, Dash shows up at the house. He knows where Marshall lives. And apparently Cindy knows who he is because he just lets him in.
Yeah, so like Dash is approached by the red-haired Terminatrix, and she basically says, bring him to me and I'll pay you a bunch of money. And so he goes to the house. She does reveal here who he is. She says his name's Charles Fresnel, and that he invented something called the Brainalyzer, which would turn any man into a genius and any genius into an idiot, apparently.
That's not quite what it ends up doing, but that's fine.
It's not quite that. But yeah, so he goes to Marshall's place and basically convinces Cindy that he needs to take Uncle Morris with him somewhere.
And mind you, when she explains, when she's in disguise in the streets trying to get information on her quote unquote brother, when Dash comes up to her and extorts her for extortion, she complains that this is the weirdest town she's ever hit and full of Democrats.
Oh yeah, it's because
this is important for the actual plot of what this what this episode is.
Yeah, it goes in some weird directions. So while that's happening, Marshall and Simon are in the alleyway, and they are figuring out what's going on, and they go through all the stuff. They find all of this equipment. They also find an axe, which terrifies them because they think, oh, he really is the Mad Whacker. And so they run back home and to check on Cindy, but she's fine. And she tells them that the gray-haired kid took him away to do something. And so then they're just like, okay, that's fine. So let's just hook up this equipment then. They're not concerned about where the guy went or anything like that. They just decide to set up all of his stuff.
They put together with the stuff that's in the container, which is the Brainalyzer. They managed to put it together back correctly.
Oh,
they
because
realize that there's an 8-track of My Sharona in there, and they finally realize, oh, he's saying a song. Because he did not recognize why he kept saying My Sharona over and over and over and over again. This is where we get the My Sharona orchestrated version playing in the background.
And so they set up all this stuff while he was there with Cindy watching the soap opera. He was also tinkering with a bunch of random junk that he had, and he ends up building another headpiece for the Brainalyzer. So even though his brain is stuck inside an 8-track tape, he is still cognitive enough to know how to rebuild this machine.
As opposed to, so it must have half malfunctioned, because later when Simon's brain is taken out of him and put onto an 8-track tape, much like a Commodore 64 game, he goes completely brain dead.
Yes, that's true. He's just laying there in a heap. So there's no more brain function. So I guess it must have been a thing of like, maybe because it's only one song, that like maybe it's not his entire bit of intelligence. It's only like
his brain went onto 7 of the tracks, but not that 8th track.
Yeah, that's what it is. So they put all this stuff together, and they're looking at it, and they figured out how to like make it work. And then Simon puts the helmet on, and Marshall goes, I wonder what this does. This giant green button that says start on it.
This was like, I wonder if they like had a whole day meeting where like, how do we get Simon to press the button naturally, organically? Why would he hit this button that says start? Because they've labeled everything on it, and literally it's like start, download, upload, and potpourri with a Jeopardy joke. But like, there's no reason for him to hit this button. I felt like they sat there, they workshopped it, they bounced ideas off each other. Like something fell onto him, he tripped and hit the button. The buttons were mislabeled. The dog came in and hit it. Cindy walked in, and in the end, they went, you know what? this is a show for kids. Let's just have him say, I wonder what this does, and then hit a button that says start button.
Yeah. So this leads to the best part of the episode, which is that now Simon has the actual Charles Furnell inside his head. So he is a little child, but he's talking like a genius and asking for cigarettes.
So our next T-shirt from this show is going to have a picture of the baby across the shirt. It says, "I'd like a cigarette," and "Hello Sugar Buns." That'll be a hat.
Absolutely. Hello Sugar Buns. Absolutely a hat, or a patch or something. Bumper sticker. How about that? So they go downstairs with because they're trying to get away to find the real. Find Charles's body. That's what it is, because he asks Marshall, "Who's the president?" And he said, "Bush, and Quayle is the vice president." He goes, "My God, it's worse than I thought."
This, in the end, still makes very little sense for where this is going.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
But it still makes more sense than the explanation they give.
Oh, that is true. So they try to sneak downstairs, but it turns out that that the Eunice, the red-haired woman, is there, and she's pretending to look for Charles to get his stuff back. Basically, she says, "Oh, this was my brother, and I need his stuff back. It would make him feel better to have it while I take care of him." And they try to sneak out, but of course, Simon, Charles is in his head, recognizes her and starts going on and on about how she is awful and like tricked him with, what was it again? Aquatic
aerobatic massage techniques.
Yeah, like what is that?
She seduced him.
Yeah, he does call her Sugar Buns. And what is his dad? What does Marshall's dad say? "Oh, this is Mrs. Furnell. She's that bum's sister."
Yes, but also she introduces earlier when they're trying to shave and everything. The crazy guy, the Mad Whacker, they give an excuse why they won't leave the bathroom, is that Marshall is shaving for the first time, and his dad is incredibly proud of this. So when he introduces Marshall to her, he's like, "This is my son Marshall. He shaved for the first time today."
So with since we're talking about Marshall's dad, so when he brings up at the beginning that guy might be one of the last liberals in Eerie, what does he consider himself? Is he a fiscal conservative?
He's an inventor. He's a guy into tech. He's a libertarian. He's afraid of AI coming to life and punishing him for not helping create the AI. So he's got to do all these he's all into all these great brain exercises where they scare each other about how important and smart they are, but also he doesn't want to pay taxes.
Would Marshall's dad have been at the January 6th riots?
I think he would get lost on the way.
That's fair.
I feel like if any of his inventions really hit it big, like they would become rich, and then Marshall's mom would become bored and then go online too much and really, start to fall in with a crowd of other bored people who are into this sort of thing. And she might have ended up there.
Like if they ever did we've kind of brainstormed this before, with like a Twin Peaks The Return style Eerie, Indiana remake or sort of reimagining. It would be interesting to see where these characters ended up, and also if there were, because Marshall would just seem like a QAnon nut job now if this were made today.
Well, you'd almost have to do it where he is a QAnon nut job, but also he looks down at the Q because his stuff is real.
Yeah, that's the sort of when it gets to the dangerous kind of thing where it's like, oh, there's all these conspiracy theories about what's going on, but they're all real. And it's like, oh no, you're giving the wrong idea. People are going to take the wrong message from this.
So what you end up having in the future, this future show that they're rebooting, is that he is like an underground guy, the podcast and all this stuff, but like Simon is Q. Simon is the one who took his ideas and twisted them to make them more entertaining to get attention on 4chan.
Sure, yeah.
And he's the one making up shit, and
they're on E-Chan. Eerie Chan.
Eerie Chan. And Marshall's trying to stop him because he's corrupting his life's work.
Also, you saying that he would have a podcast made me think of how great and how affordable it would be to just make a fucking Eerie, Indiana podcast. Like, not talking about the show, but just
a true crime show, except for it's Eerie, Indiana.
Get the original people back. Like, they can do this stuff from their homes. Like, you could do it very easily and get some of the writers back. I think some of these folks are still working. I imagine they are. Like, get them back and get them to doing something like this. That would be super fun.
That Joe Dante podcast we've always been waiting for. He's got nothing else going on.
I mean, I'm sure he does, but like,
is it HBO Max is making the Gremlins reboot?
Oh, I don't know.
I know he's involved in it.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a reboot. I know they're making an animated movie, right? Or is that already out?
I don't know. This is not my area of expertise. You're the one who works in Hollywood. Have you made any wallpapers for a Gremlins show?
I have not. No, I think it's animated. But yeah, the guys who worked on this show are still writing. They're still out there. Like, get them to do like a fucking 6 or 8 episode Eerie, Indiana podcast, picking back up with Marshall, 20 years later, seeing where he's at, having guests on, telling stories of what happened, having him do little fun field recordings.
Marsden would be so excited to come on and do this voice again.
Yeah. He could be their, correspondent out doing weird travels and giving them information.
Oh, what if his name is now Dash Q? I was wrong. He's making money off this shit.
Yeah, like I would love that. I think that's like a no-brainer of an idea, and I don't know if it's just because this show is not super popular, even though there was a BuzzFeed article that I shared with you a couple weeks ago of like, you'll never believe what show Gremlins creator Joe Dante was involved in.
People didn't believe it enough that it didn't help our listenership at all.
People
the
didn't
show
want
buried within a show.
Yeah, it was too difficult, and people didn't want that toaster badly enough, so they did not promote it.
Oh, it's too bad. I would have bought that toaster. I would have done it, guys.
It would have happened. It would have been a good one too. I wouldn't have even gotten like the cheap one. I would have gotten a decent toaster.
Decent toast.
A decent toaster, at least $50. I mean, that might be. I have not bought a toaster in a very long time. That might be a very expensive toaster.
Have I mentioned on the show that the only thing my daughter asked for her 13th birthday was a toaster?
Oh, how much was her toaster?
$70. She wanted a very specific one.
Because she got that cool looking one.
Yeah, it's a nice
sort of retro, vintagey one.
Yeah, and it looks like it's kind of retro. It's this nice retro light blue aqua thing. It has all kinds of features.
Okay, so you wouldn't have gotten a toaster that nice, but it would have been a nice toaster.
No, I want to make sure everyone out there knows that I will not let it happen that any of our listeners have a better toaster than I do.
So Simon here as Charles is great. The acting is very fun. It's very different from Simon, and they keep making a point to reference that he's 9 years old, but he's got this grown man inside him. We know, of course, that he's 2 or 3 at most, but it's still like impressive acting for this kid. Like, this kid is doing a great job.
He does pull off the great line of 1990s and 80s humor of, when asked about who that was, about the red-headed lady, he goes, "That's no lady, that's my wife." but dismissively in a very my wife sort of way.
And he's saying this as he's hot wiring a car.
As he's hot wiring a car. Then we come back and they're trying to set up the brainalyzer to put his brain, Chappie's brain, back into Chappie's body and Simon's brain wherever. It doesn't matter. And he's saying, don't worry about anyone sneaking up on us. I know Taekwondo. And then he does a bunch of air chops and says these hands are registered weapons. And the problem is the baby is almost laughing while he's doing this because it is so fucking stupid.
Yes, because he's swinging his arms around and going, wah, wah, wah.
He's clearly enjoying himself so fucking much.
Yeah, it's very funny. So they hook up the machine, they get everything back to normal, and they're able to switch Charles and Simon back. They get Charles into his body, and now Simon is brain dead with no brain, and they go to switch him back, but unfortunately the tape has been taken by Dash. Dash is there, and he knows the real story, and he's gonna expose them and stop them from doing this. And
so this is Dash threatening to kill Simon forever.
Yes, because he threatens to unravel the tape. And basically he says like he's doing it essentially for the money. Like he wants more money from this person to turn over the machine to her. And because she's lied to him basically and told him that it was, that he was a bad guy or whatever. Yeah.
Chappie had created this amazing invention, but he had buckled under the pressure. Instead, Chappie tells us, and I'm sorry if I get this wrong, I really am, but this is how it is explained, that she, on the side, after they were married and he had made this invention for the brainalyzer to make everyone into geniuses, that instead she had, on the side, sold the brainalyzer to help the Republicans win the 1980 election.
Yeah.
By uploading MacGyver's brain into Ronald Reagan, thus increasing his intelligence by 4 times. MacGyver isn't real.
Maybe they just put Richard Dean Anderson's brain into Ronald Reagan.
Was there someone involved in the 1980s elections whose name was actually MacGyver, who I do not know because I'm Canadian?
Oh, that is a good point. I don't know. I think they're making a MacGyver joke about the show, but the show started in 85, I think.
Definitely not 1980.
I think I don't know exactly when. I've seen the show, but I don't remember when it started. But I think it was 1985. I'm looking to see if there was anybody. Let's see. Okay, that's a connection to this episode on IMDb. So it is the MacGyver. It is MacGyver because I looked for MacGyver Ronald Reagan, and the first thing is an IMDb movie connection from Eerie to the MacGyver series.
It was so weird to me at one point during the pandemic that may or may not be over, depending on your country and political views. Looking up one day and realizing that there was a MacGyver remake that is on air and has been for years.
Yeah, it's been on air for a long time. Longer than you would think. I think it's been on for like 5 years.
And it's a hit. I had no idea. Zero concept.
Apparently it is a hit. I don't know.
So this joke just works now more than ever.
But yeah, so
at the time it made no sense because why would he? What? So it's okay. So in the universe of Eerie, Indiana, which is similar to ours, there was a Bush and there was a Quayle, there was a Reagan. There are very few liberals left, but Democrats are everywhere. My Sharon and the Knacks exist. But MacGyver, the character on the
He's a
TV
real
show, is
person.
actually real in this world.
So it was no MacGyver TV show.
No,
He was just
there
a public
MacGyver,
figure that
a
people
public
knew.
a public figure who was a genius.
Who was a genius who could do amazing things with paper clips.
Right. And had a great mullet, whose brain would have been so valuable it would have helped Ronald Reagan win the election, which he did win anyway.
Yes. So I have to bring up this thing that I mentioned earlier about this trivia bit that's on IMDb for this episode. It says that it's an extended critique of allegedly brainless people in American politics. Script mentions a number of Republicans of the early 1980s and 90s. They find a Bush Quayle 88 bumper sticker, prompting Marshall to quip, well, at least we know he's not a liberal, which he was. He is a liberal. He was not happy about Bush and Quayle winning, nor Reagan winning. And then they bring up the fact that Eunice Danforth negotiated a multi-million-dollar plot to steal the 1980 election by pumping MacGyver's brain into Ronald Reagan, thereby quadrupling his IQ. And Eunice Danforth's last name is likely a reference to James Danforth Dan Quayle, the Vice President of the United States. Quayle is from Indiana.
It's really hard to explain to people who weren't alive then how much Dan Quayle's dumb jokes there were.
Yeah,
at the time,
and
it was a given that he was the dumbest person on the planet because he spelled potato wrong. Like the vice president, and now you have people who
that blows my mind how we are here. Well, how we're there. Like he was a laughingstock because he added an extraneous E during some trip to a classroom, and yeah. That's bad. You probably shouldn't do that, especially because you're in front of kids. You're going to whatever. But it was just, he is a fool. How stupid is he? And I wouldn't be surprised if partially people thinking Dan Quayle was dumb helped kind of cost them a second term. I'm sure that was impacted in some way.
It was fucking everywhere. Cartoons would have him on there being a blithering idiot. And nowadays we have people who they don't like certain political figures and within their circles, they say they're a frivolous moron, blah, blah, blah. Harris is stupid or whatever because I don't like her. I promise you, I don't care if you voted for him because if you did, fuck you. Trump is 1,000 times stupider.
Yes.
1,000 times dumber. A year ago, he told us to inject bleach into our body.
Yeah.
Thousands died. But at the time, there was no one dumber in humanity. It was a given on SNL, on cartoons, on Tiny Toons, on Animaniacs, on everything. Dan Quayle was the dumbest person on earth.
Yeah. It's wild how our politics have shifted so much in 20, 30 years. So they are all together now. Dash is there. Everybody's there. Eunice shows up. They are trying to figure out what to do. They want Marshall wants to get Simon back in his body, but she wants to take the brainalyzer. It's a whole thing, and they all sort of reach for the machine at the same time. Marshall and Charles and Eunice all grab the machine. Dash is left to count his money. Because he doesn't care about anybody except money.
He never gets back the money, by the way.
He doesn't, which is fine. Except that he does, because this is sort of the beat of his character in almost every episode where he's shown up. He seems to trick them, then he helps them out at the end.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But so we have a thing where they all touch the machine, it goes off, and they switch brains like 1,000 cartoons have done, right? So This is live action. There's 3 minutes left in the show, and they've just all switched brains.
Yeah, this is a hallmark of Eerie, I think, introducing some wild stuff right at the very end and wondering how are they going to wrap this up.
It's so late to do this, and we have this great moment where now Chappie and Eunice are in Simon and Marshall's body, so now they're a couple. We had them profess their love to each other.
This was for all the Simon and Marshall shippers out there in the early 90s, these kids who were watching the show and going, man, I hope they hook up sometime.
This is the writer's room being assholes.
Yeah, they're not really giving you what you want as a fan. Like, they're never going to really have Bucky and Falcon make out, but we'll play with you a little bit.
No, at some point during the new Captain America movie, Bucky and Falcon are going to make passionate love for 10 straight minutes on air.
Maybe they'll switch their brains and they'll like one of them they'll find their long lost love, and then it'll get dropped into one of their bodies, and they can have at it.
Passionate love, like just 10 minutes of
it. Full penetration and everything.
On air.
Marshall is in Eunice's body, and he, of course, takes this moment to stare down at her cleavage.
Poor lady was passed away in 1994.
And Simon's in Charles's body, and Dash comes back in because he's had a change of heart. And he points the ray gun at fake Eunice, and Marshall is able to convince him. So like Eunice in Marshall's body is saying, you should shoot him and I'll pay you $1,000. And he realizes that that's the fake Marshall because he says Marshall doesn't have $1,000.
Not that he wouldn't say it. Not that he wouldn't believe it. Not that that's something that Eunice would say instead of Marshall. No, it's the literal fact that Marshall would not own, possess, or be able to procure $1,000.
And he shoots fake Marshall with this ray gun.
He shoots him.
Yeah.
What is this ray gun, and why doesn't it do permanent damage to them?
I don't know, but he lays out this kid, and they get everybody switched back to normal. And he asks Dash X like why he came back, and he says something basically along the lines of like, I thought about what you might do, or I thought about like,
if I was the one in trouble, what would I want someone else to do for me?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And
the silver rule.
Yeah.
Like his hair.
He broke the golden rule. He used to have golden locks, but then they turned silver. So
I hope when he finally like, there would have been an episode where he finally like totally connects his past and his hair turns gold. Like he's a fucking Goku.
Yeah, he is from the future. He's like Trunks from the future.
Basically, he's Trunks.
Yeah, we're gonna find out he's Marshall's son or something.
They both wear big fancy coats.
That's true.
We haven't seen. Sometime he's gonna pull out a sword. Yeah,
I mean he does. When was this? Dragon Ball Z was a little bit later, right? Than 92.
I think it's out. It's in Japan. It's being done, but it hasn't been translated totally. Over here yet.
I wonder then if they took some inspiration.
I wonder if Dad is supposed to be Bulma.
Let's see. I'm gonna look up on the Dragon Ball wiki. Let's see when this character.
It's about time we pulled up the Dragon Ball wiki on one of these episodes.
I'm just trying to see when he was first introduced on the show, like what year. But it's just giving me all of his like actual backstory, which I don't actually give a shit about. I mean that show is a show that is just up its own ass with all the various things that are going on. Let's see. No. I don't. It's hard. I can't tell. It's just. I don't know when this. It's so impossible to figure out when this was
Dragon
happening.
Ball Z
Oh no, 94
premiered in 1989 on Fuji TV.
Yeah, but this saga didn't start until 94, so it was a couple of years after. So maybe they saw Eerie, Indiana, and they decided to create their Trunks kid.
All we know is that these two characters are intertwined, Trunks and Dash X.
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna find out he's like from the future and he's his son or something.
And if you want that toaster, please send us a picture of Dash X with Goku Super Saiyan hair.
Yeah, that's right. Let's Photoshop contest. Send that to me.
For personal use.
Yeah, for personal use. I'll use my oiled lube and take care of
The
myself.
Mad Whacker needs this, I promise you.
We find out where Marshall lives at the end because he gets an envelope with his address on it. 999 Normal Avenue.
That's 666 Freaky Avenue upside down.
Whoa. And it turns out that Charles has destroyed the Brainalyzer, and he has decided that he and Eunice are going to move to the country to work out things, and he has sent Marshall a copy of the Knack's on the Knack's album on 8-track, and I was wondering if there was a brain in there, but they don't really go into that. So I'm wondering if like part of her brain is stuck on that tape.
Play it backwards, and you'll hear her screaming existential dread.
But yeah, so that is the episode. It's a very bizarre one. I think this, like, as weird as this show has gotten, I think this might be the weirdest episode, like straight out of the gate, the weirdest episode.
Feels like an episode written by people who had a lot of sugar. Like they're really kind of strung out and giggly, and this is what they wrote.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
It's like really like it's a lot of little, like, wouldn't be funny ifs, but like not something you could ever grow out to a full episode or even a full 5 minutes. And they just like, no, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. It's so weird. How is Vincent Van Gogh not in this show?
Oh, that would be. I mean, I'm sure that they could have done something with that if they'd been on longer. I bet we would have seen so many other stories. Maybe at the end of our run here, we could kind of brainstorm what other episodes they could have done.
There's so much that is left on the table by this show, but yeah, I never every time I see a new episode, it's not what I expected to happen because I didn't expect this episode at all.
No, I was kind of blown away by it, but it was still a fun one. I mean, the Mad Whacker stuff was very funny, and it just got wilder from there.
It hits the grounds. This one hits the ground so fast, like so many crazy things happen in the first 5 minutes that like you just know that it's going full to the wall.
Yeah,
just whacking into that wall madly. Over and over and over and over again.
But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Center of Weirdness. Can't wait for next time. Like I said, we're going to get some more information about Dash X. Finally, we're going to give him a fucking name. And then, after that, I mean, there's only a scant few episodes remaining. We are getting so close to the end of the run.
I wonder if there's anybody who's like, oh my God, they're almost fucking done. They're almost going to do their fucking normal show again. And wouldn't it be so funny if we finish this off and then we're like, now we're going to we're going to do a TV show about the fucking GoBots. Like, God damn it.
No. I will say that, we're gonna wrap up this run of Eerie, Indiana, of Center of Weirdness, and we're gonna get back to doing predictocast. So if you liked that show, it is coming back a little bit later on in the summer.
We have episodes in the can. We can't waste all that effort.
No, it is coming back a little bit later on in the summer. And I will just tease, we're getting close to the end of our run with Eerie. We will do the rest of the episodes in this run, and then we'll have something very special at the very end before we switch back over to predictocast. So I'm excited about that, and hopefully that's enough to keep you coming back for the next couple of weeks while we finish up our trip to Eerie, Indiana. But until next time, when we're getting down and finding out what's going on with the Loyal Order of Corn, I've been Josh.
I've been no Brian, no Payan.
And we'll see you next time, weirdos.
It's shocking how many people will send me emails with my name as Brain. Like that isn't another word you would immediately see and think that's not a name.
Okay, so I will say this. When I was a kid, I read a lot. I read a lot of Goosebumps books, which ties in, of course, to Eerie, Indiana, that same kind of vibe. And there was one called The Phantom of the Auditorium. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I had like a weird mix up in my brain or whatever, but there was a character whose name was Brian, and I just kept reading it as Brain.
Oh, good. You're my manager then.